Welcome to Inside Boxing Daily on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Inside Boxing Daily is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To find out more about them, go to the top of the GruelingTruth.com's website, click on the banner, or you can go to MyBookie.ag, put in the promo code TGT100 to get up to 100% cash back on your first deposit. And we are also brought to you by the Retired Boxers Foundation with Jackie Richardson and Alex Ramos. I am your co-host for Inside Boxing Daily, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in Jeremiah Pricer. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm always good, Mike. You don't even need to ask anymore. I'm just excited to talk some boxing, man.
Yeah, I got to say something to introduce you. All right, our guest tonight will be in the corner with Artur Beterbiev tomorrow night as he defends his light heavyweight championship. Help me welcome to the show, John Scully. How you doing, John?
Doing great. How you doing?
It's always great to have you on the show. And we'll start off here. How did you first catch wind of Artur Beterbiev?
Well, I'll tell you what happened was a few years ago before he fought Beterbiev-Kladzyk, a friend of mine from Montreal, Russ Amber, we were talking and he mentioned it, and he said, you should really see this Russian kid. He's unbelievable. He's only, I believe, like 5-0 at the time, and he said, they're fighting Beterbiev-Kladzyk, and I said, really? I said, you sure? You sure you want to put this kid? The kid just fought Hopkins and went 12 rounds with Hopkins, and he was a former world champ. I said, and he goes, trust me, he's going to be fine. And he knocked Cloud out, I believe, in the second round or third round, pretty easily. So then what happened was apparently Artur was interested in learning like Western style, Western world style, like American style tricks and techniques and different things like that. And so his head trainer, Mark Ramsey, called me and he said, would you be interested in coming up and working a little bit and, see how you guys mix together, just give a little insight into, from a fighter's perspective. So I went up there for the first training camp, which was around, I believe, March of 2016. And, we just kind of hit it off, and I've been to every camp since.
It's awesome, man. And I have a question because I found some of what you said pretty interesting. So just from your experience, what's the difference between, what they're learning over there in Russia and, former Soviet nations and compared to what, we have to teach here?
Right. Well, the big thing is in the Russians, in the amateurs, they're very successful with a straight up stand-up style from a distance. A lot of guys from Bulgaria and Germany, like I fought Henry Mosky, and Henry Mosky was like that. Like he had that stand-up style. They're very disciplined fighting from a distance. And on the inside, they have almost no inside game whatsoever. And, as a professional, you're going to need that. Sooner or later, it's going to come into play. And a lot of times when they get inside where they want to be, like, most guys, when you get inside as a pro, you want to be there. You're trying to work and get damage done. But in the amateurs, oftentimes when they get inside, the referees come and break it. They don't let you stay inside for very long if you obviously don't want to be there. They don't work on the inside because there's too much risk of getting points taken away for your head and different things. So Artur had a thing where he was, constantly, like voluntarily, once he would get inside, he would just go right back out, automatically, because that's what he's always been trained to do. So, I've worked with him on staying on the inside and, breaking these guys down with body shots and things like that.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that he seems to be a pretty damn good body puncher so far. I know he's been doing that more frequently, probably since you introduced him to a bit more of this. But I was wondering when did you first, get with him? When did you first get to apply, some of your knowledge to his game?
I believe it was March of 2016. He fought the guy, I forget the guy's name. The guy's nickname was Olympico. He was an Olympian from, I believe, Argentina. I forget his name, but so it's been about little over 3 years.
Was it Prado?
That's the guy. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Prado. Yep. And so I've been working with him a lot on little different tricks, but the body punching has been a big aspect of it.
All right, so when somebody has done something a certain way for a long time, a lot of times it's damn near impossible to teach them something different. How well has he taken to what you're trying to show him?
I'll tell you what, very well. I'll tell you a unique thing about him. This is a guy who had hundreds of amateur fights. He was a world amateur champion. He was a 2-time Olympian. He beat Ismail Salak. He beat Kovalev. He beat the guy who knocked out Adonis Stevenson and put Stevenson in the hospiel. He stopped him. Yeah. So, he's an elite amateur and obviously a devastating pro. But he's really, really, surprisingly open. And I'll give you an example. I remember one day I worked with him on a little maneuver to get better punch placement. And I see him like a half hour later, when the training was basically over, he spent about another half an hour off in the corner of the gym by a heavy bag, just practicing what I had showed him. And and he was going down. And he's the type of guy. It's very interesting. We were talking about this in the gym the other day. It's very interesting with him because with some guys, some trainers, they train people basically, they can sit in a chair and they just yell over to them like, all right, 4 rounds on the bag, 4 rounds shadow box, do some jump rope, do that kind of stuff. But with him, that's not happening. You have to be on your game. You have to be there watching him. You got to show him. And when you show him something, you've got to explain why and why are you doing this and where should his foot be and everything. So he really he keeps you on your toes as a trainer because he's expecting you to be really, really on the ball, in all aspects of it.
Is he a pretty bright guy? I mean, I ask because a lot of those guys in Russia and whatnot, they have degrees. I mean, they go to the military, or not voluntarily, but it's mandatory over there. But a lot of them end up getting degrees. I mean, I notice guys like, Alexander Povetkin has a degree. Both the Klitschko's had degrees. Some of the other fighters that I've written about. Is he a pretty bright fellow too? And is that what you like most about him?
Yeah, well, he's sharp. He's bright, and he's like I say, he's a lot of guys aren't like that where you just tell them something and they do it. They never ask why. You know what I mean? But he's like, well, why? Why do you do it? Why do I put my foot here and not there? Why do I lean this way? What's the point? And so he, like I say, he keeps you sharp because he's analytical and he's intellectual, in terms of the boxing, and he understands weight distribution and weight placement and things like that. It's interesting. It's almost like working with a it's hard to describe, but you're like a really technical guy, and it's different. Like I say, a lot of guys you can just tell them, throw the hook. This is how you throw it, and that's it. But he'll be like, oh no, but where should my foot be? And where should my back foot be? And where should my waist be? And, he wants to hear you tell him different things. He actually likes, and I don't think he likes making a mistake, but he loves when he makes a mistake and you're like, no, you got to do this. You got to fix that. And he says every day, I want to learn something, And so you go to the gym with him and you can't just skate through it. You got to be there, watching him, everything.
I would think a guy like that, and from my experience, I coach football, not boxing, but if you could explain to somebody exactly why they're doing something, they're more confident in what they're doing, too, instead of you just telling somebody what to do.
Right.
Because they know the reason behind it.
Also, and also they figure, anybody could say throw the hook, you know what I mean? But if you're able to actually show them how and how to get more snap out of it. And I think I gained his trust. I'll tell you, actually, now that I think about it, I think I gained his trust and confidence because I showed him early on how to do the body shots, and I showed him a particular one and how to place it in a really good spot. And he did it like literally 3 times in one round. He stopped this guy momentarily 3 times in the round. Like 3 times the guy had to step back and we had to give him a 5-second break, to compose himself. And afterwards, the guy was like, "Wow, great body shots. Oh, those are really good." And the guy, had sparred with him before, and he never got hit with those. And and Arthur looked at me and he goes, "Oh, one of my coaches, he showed me that." And so I think that I gained my confidence early with him.
All right, so how's his preparation been for this fight against Kladzyk, who is a big underdog, 6-1, 7-1 in a lot of places, but he's a solid fighter.
Yeah, the crazy thing is this may be maybe the first time in history. I don't know, but I've actually sparred with the kid Hot Rod. I sparred with him a few years ago when I was in Florida, so I know him probably better than most trainers know their fighters' opponents. But Arthur. One thing about Arthur, he trains very hard all the time. Like, you don't have to. I always say there's fighters. The majority of fighters, if you tell a fighter tomorrow you got to run, you got to run at 6 o'clock, and a lot of them you have to call them, wake them up and say, "Come on, man, you got to get up. You got to get up, or you got to." So I know a trainer. He used to drive to the guys' houses and have to knock on the door. You know what I mean? Arthur, you don't need to tell this guy anything. Like, in terms of preparation and taking care of business and doing what he needs to do, like, that's a non-issue. He's an unbelievably strong guy. He has a strength guy he works with who's from Poland, an older guy who's literally 70 years old, but he's got the body and the capabilities of like a 30-year-old. This guy himself, the strength coach, is unbelievable. And he told me that Arthur is by far the strongest athlete he's ever worked with. And, he's worked with wrestlers, he's worked with hockey players, he's worked with everybody. And he said nobody's like this guy.
Damn, yeah, I know a lot of, because Beterbiev I believe is from southern Russia near the Caucasus Mountains.
Well,
and a lot of those
Chechnya.
guys
He's from Chechnya.
Okay, yeah. So southern Russia, yeah, close to the Black Sea and whatnot. Yeah, a lot of those guys, Armenians and just guys in the Caucasian region. A lot of them actually go into wrestling. It seems like a lot of these guys kind of have that build.
Well, what they told me, everybody in Chechnya fights. Like, whether it's wrestling or boxing or, in a street or whatever. He said every male over there fights in some fashion. Like, that's just the culture. And the guy who I guess he beat Conor McGregor in an MMA fight. I forget the guy's name. You guys, I'm sure you know the guy.
It's Khabib something.
Khabib, yeah. He, he's from there also. So it's that kind of culture.
Yeah, I actually think Murat Gassi of the cruiserweight is also from around that region. So it seems like a lot of them have kind of taken a liking to the sport. But you said you sparred Hot Rod. What was that experience like, and what do you think his chances are against Beterbiev?
We sparred. I didn't know who he was. Like, honestly, at the time, it was before he fought Marcus Brown, and I wasn't even supposed to spar. Like, what happened was, I was bringing a fighter that I was training to the gym in St. Petersburg, and I knew the trainer a little bit. And I said, hey, I'm going to be there. I always bring my gloves. If you got anybody my weight, I'd love to get some work. And so he goes, yeah, I got a guy. And I didn't even know who Hot Rod was. And he came in, and I just remember he was very, very tall. And I believe we did 8 rounds. And it was good. He started out really, really fast, like really fast. And I don't know why, but he was very aggressive, and so we kind of got in. It escalated kind of quickly, and but we did like 8 rounds, and it was very good. And I haven't seen him since until today when I saw him at the weigh-in. But he's tall, so anybody that has some capability and is really tall, it's an issue. But Arthur's quite tall himself comparatively. I think at the weigh-in I anticipated that Hot Rod would have been about 2 inches taller, but today at the weigh-in, it looked like he was maybe only like a half an inch taller. Style-wise, anybody that's tall and rangy and slim and a bit awkward, could be a problem in terms of someone being able to get their timing down and things like that. But by the same token, Arthur had hundreds of amateur fights, and he fought every style, he used to fight heavyweight, so he's fought a lot of tall guys. So I think he would be able to adjust relatively quickly.
All right. Final question, because we said we'd only keep you 15 minutes. That's what we're at. I know you're busy. If he wins tomorrow night, the light heavyweight division is pretty stacked. Where do you think he goes from here?
I'll tell you what, and I can't say like I have a real reason to say this, but my gut feeling is a fight with Kovalev might be next. And one reason I say that is because recently I saw an interview with Kovalev, and I've never seen Kovalev even mention Arthur's name before. He never brings his name up. And in an interview like a month or two ago, he brought Arthur up, and he was saying that it was right after his last fight, and he said, if we could fight May 4th, I'll fight May 4th. He would fight Arthur, tomorrow. And obviously that didn't happen, but he left it open. So I'm just, it's my gut feeling is that him mentioning Arthur, and then if Arthur wins tomorrow, I think that's going to be the name that's going to pop up. And I believe, I know for a fact, there's a bit of bad blood between the two of them, because Arthur beat him one time that I know of, but also apparently they sparred after, and Arthur, got the better of it, I guess, from what I understand. And I guess not long ago they asked Kovalev about, I forget the exact question, but it was something like people from Chechnya, anybody that's doing good and whatever, and he didn't mention Arthur. Now the thing is, if you mention that, you have to mention Arthur, first probably, but he didn't. He left Arthur's name out of it, and so they took that as a slight, like intentionally he left his name out of the mix. So like I said, there's some bad blood there, and I think the fight would pretty much sell itself once people started learning of the stories.
All right, Jeremiah.
Yeah. Again, that was the last question, but I do find it interesting because I'd heard about the amateur stuff before, at least how they fought and how Beterbiev beat him, but it kind of seems like it's in Kovalev's character to do something like that. I mean, Kovalev, you talked about Ismail Salah earlier, and Kovalev also fought him and ended up starching him with a jab, and that was the most. I don't know if it is like he's part of some, because it's just like the U.S. A lot of people think that, you hear the word Russia and a lot of these guys are the same ethnicity and yada, yada. I mean, there's tons of, like Murat Gassiev's from the Caucasian region, but ethnically he's Turkish. Chechens are by and large Muslim. Northern Russians are by and large Christian.
Well, I'll say this. Chechnya is different. They're separate. However, it works over there. But Arthur fought for the Russian team, like in the Olympics. Like he has the jacket. He actually gave it to me. I was up in Montreal a couple months ago, and it was so bitter cold up there, and I didn't prepare for it. And he saw that, and he actually brought me his Russian Olympic coat, and it says Russia right on the back in big letters. So I believe Arthur said that, he was from Chechnya, but he fought for the Russian team, and he was kind of viewed as like an outsider, even though they liked him and he was successful. But I guess ultimately they'd rather have straight, pure Russians and not Chechnyans and that type of thing. But he did fight for Russia in the Olympics.
Yeah. I don't want to get too deep into regional conflicts and whatnot, but Chechnya is it's owned by Russia. It's a part of Russia, but it's been a big separatist. It's had a big separatist movement many years. I don't know. Maybe in what was it, 1991? Maybe you heard about it. But the the Baslam bombing, where a couple people rigged up a school and blew people up, like those people are from Chechnya. Again, it's something that has been a regional conflict for many years. But again, Kovalev just seems like he might be a part of that. Because Salah was from the Ukraine, and Beterbiev's from Chechnya. So again, I don't know him on a personal level, but he does seem kind of vindictive in the things that he does and says sometimes.
Yeah. I certainly could see that. I get the impression. I tell you, I when I read the interviews with Virgil Hunter after they broke up, I could read between the lines what Virgil was saying, and Kovalev's mentality and that type of thing. And it kind of goes along with what Arthur described to me. So I don't think there'd be any love lost between the two whatsoever. Press conferences might get a little crazy and It's a different. People need to realize it's a different mentality over in that part of the world. Like, we have tough guys in America. And there's some ruthless guys in America, but I've dealt with a lot of these guys being in camp, with Arthur, and we bring in guys from Croatia, we bring in guys from, that part of the world. And so I talk to these guys, I bring them to the gym, and we conversate, and, it's a different world over there. Like, these guys tell me stories, and they're telling me stories like it's normal, and I'm sitting there in the driver's seat like, what? This guy, I'm driving with this guy, he's I'll tell you a funny example. We had a guy, and him and Arthur were very competitive in the sparring, like on a personal level. You could see like they were one step away from like all out war in the middle of the gym. It was that kind of thing. And I'm driving the guy home, and we're talking, and he's like, he didn't like one of the guys in the gym. Like, he kind of had a bad, he didn't even know the guy, but there was a guy in the gym, and I said, yeah, what's wrong with him? What's the problem with him? He goes, he's always smiling. I said, yeah, I don't know what to say. So I'm like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I said, I guess, so I say to him, I said, I guess in your country, he'd have to stay in the house. And without even breaking stride, without joking, he said, no, we go in and we get him. I said, okay. So that's the mentality. So you got to wonder, what kind of upbringing did these guys have where they formed that mentality? You know what I mean? And it goes along with what my friend said. He said, everybody over there, like, when you're from that part of the world, you either wrestle, or you do karate, or you beat somebody up on the street, or you box. You're hitting somebody, legally or not, and they're coming out. Like I say, you got Khabib, and you have a lot of these guys now. They're joining the MMA and the UFC and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fighting mentality, and it's not just love of boxing. Like, it's a fighting mentality because it's ingrained in them as kids. Like, that's what you do. You fight, and you try and destroy people, So that's, it's interesting training Arthur, because ultimately his goal is to, annihilate.
Yeah, and I've heard, just from guys like, I've seen some of the interviews with like, even from guys from like Lithuania and places like that, like Aegis Kovalev, who I know, he's kind of a buddy of mine. They say that there's a different way that they train. A lot of these guys from Eastern Europe, they're very serious in their demeanor, whereas you get a lot more play in Americans. But I was actually reading not long ago. I'm sorry to keep you, John, but
no, that's good.
I was reading that a lot of these guys, a lot of these professional fighters from, former Soviet countries like, Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan and Belarus, et cetera, a lot of them don't pursue professional fighting, or they don't pursue it much after the amateur ranks because they don't get paid nothing. And a lot of them turn out to be like guards at doors, or, like enforcers for the Russian mafia and stuff like that. So,
right.
It makes a little sense that you kind of resort to all that.
Oh, yeah, they're utilizing their attributes one way or the other, And, ideally they want to fight for a living. But if it doesn't happen, then they'll find another way to use some violence, I guess.
All right.
And but yeah.
All right, John. We know you're busy, so we are going to let you go. But we do want to get you back here in the next week or two to talk about the retired boxers. I know Thomas Gerbasi wrote a great article about you that I suggest everybody go read. But we'd like to have you back here in the next week or two.
Yeah, no, that would be great. That article really, it showed me how far-reaching the internet is. I was actually here in the lobby last night, and a guy, Lee Samuels with Top Rank, who's going into the Hall of Fame in June, and he approached me, and I've never met him in my life before, and he goes, hey, man, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I saw that article, and it's unbelievable, and he wants to give me a bunch of stuff that Top Rank has in their, warehouse, autographed posters, and he wants me to sell it and raise money for the fighters. So that article really did a big thing, and it's kind of shining a light on the fact that these guys need help. So we could definitely talk about that when the time comes, for sure.
All right, John, we wish you the best of luck, you and Arthur tomorrow, in your light heavyweight title fight, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, guys, thank you for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right,
Have
thanks,
a good one, John.
All right, buddy. Yep.
All right. Jeremiah, you want to take a commercial break, come back and talk a little boxing news, or you just want to go home and take a nap?
No, that's okay. I'm up for it. Let's continue.
I was wanting to take a nap. But all right, we're going to take a commercial break. We will be back after this word from the Neutral Corner. We'll be right back.
Hello, boxing fans. I'm Michael Montero of Montero on Boxing. You may have read my work in Boxing Monthly Magazine, Ring Magazine, or their associated websites, maybe Undisputed Champion Network. Maybe you've heard my segments on NBC Sports Radio or any of the other platforms where I do work regularly. I wanted to invite you to check out my podcast, The Neutral Corner. We upload it every Monday. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course at thegruelingtruth.net. Every week we go over the news, the rumors, the latest fights being put together. We analyze everything, give you the business behind the business, and then we review all the action that took place in the ring during the prior week around the world. Not just the big popular fights, but all the fights, including the little guys. And then, of course, we preview the action coming up this week. Again, Michael Montero, The Neutral Corner, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and thegruelingtruth.net.
All right, guys, we're back on Inside Boxing Daily. Once again, we want to thank John Scully for coming on the show. Jeremiah, I know you have a problem with the Inoue-Rodriguez fight being for the ring title.
Yeah, man, I do. I do. And it's, again, I know a lot of people oddly aren't making a deal about this, but then again, it seems like boxing fans don't really make a big deal about much anymore because it seems like you're shaking hands with the devil anyway, so who gives a shit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the attitude we got, isn't it? But yeah, my issue is, and I posted about this on Facebook today, and I was just trying to get some information from hardcore boxing fans and see what they believe about this and what their take on the situation is. And I did get some critical response. I mean, it was kind of up and down, and that's fine. I don't mind agreeing or disagreeing. I just like to hear the feedback, because sometimes somebody can make a point, might change my mind or something like that. But my issue with it is that you're doing the number 1 and number 3 guys, at least according to the ring, and you're doing this for their championship belt. And somebody was saying that initially they had planned on crowning the winner of the entire tournament, and that would have made some sense. But the problem is that, we know in boxing that sometimes this gets derailed and things don't happen according to plan. So now we've got Nonito Donaire in the final. And Donaire, to just about nobody, is he's not a top 3 guy. He's not a top 4 guy. He's probably not a top 5 guy at 118. I mean, he really hasn't beaten anybody of late. And his advancements are predicated on 2 injuries with Tate and Burnett. And he probably would have lost both those fights. He probably would have lost to Burnett, and Burnett probably would have fought Tate. And then that winner would have been the number 2 guy. And then you would have had Inoue versus that guy, and that would have made some sense to crown a ring champion. But now we're not even getting it in the final. We're getting it before the final. And my problem with Emmanuel Rodriguez getting this shot is that to me, he's a flimsy number 3. So if you look at the rankings, the ring they have Rodriguez higher than anybody. So for ESPN, which nobody really cares about their rankings much anyways, but it's worth noting just kind of as a figure, a way of just kind of putting things into perspective. ESPN has Rodriguez number 6. Transnational has him number 6. In Boxing Monthly, who Michael Montero, who we just heard from, they do their own rankings as well. They have him number 5. Okay, and so to me, it seems like the ring is overrating him a little bit. Rodriguez did score an upset in his last win, but I like a lot of these people. Obviously, don't feel it was good enough to advance him that high. And then you look at a guy like Louis Neary, who did have PED issues, and funny enough, he blamed it on contaminated meat too. But of course, this was back in 2017. He served a 6-month suspension, and then he's been back in the rankings, right? He ended up in over the weight contest. He ended up beating up Yamanaka, who was the ring title holder at that time, but he destroyed him. I mean, he didn't need to be overweight. He didn't need PEDs. He was simply the better fighter, and he's had a number of fights since then. So to me, it just feels like a flimsy number 1 and number 3 doing this. And if you can't justify Rodriguez at number 2, why even bother doing it? And, John Einrenhofer, I'm going to ask him about this, whenever we do the weekly show too. But he's starting to get concerned that the Ring and DAZN they're playing real nice with one another. And he thinks that, maybe some DAZN money is being injected into the Ring, and that's influencing that all. Because when you're putting it all into context, this is the second time that the number 1 and number 3 guys are being crowned the Ring champion. I mean, you had that last time with Caleb Smith and George Groves, and you also had it not long ago in Jorge Linares, who is also a Golden Boy fighter, and Anthony Crolla. So I just don't like the way it's going. And you know what? Ultimately, it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't tell you who the man in the division is, and that's really my problem with all of this. Is it's not answering any questions. It's just asking more.
Well, I think when I go to the Ring Magazine website, I do see an advertisement for Golden Boy and DAZN together. So,
well, yeah, I mean, and we had paid attention to DAZN a little while ago, and we noticed that they're advertising a lot of the big sites, but Golden Boy is in tight, right? They're doing promotional deals. Canelo Álvarez is fighting on DAZN. I mean, they gave him a potentially massive contract. Again, people need to pump the brakes a little bit, saying this is the biggest, sports contract out there. It's not. It's not guaranteed. This isn't baseball money. It's not basketball money.
Mike Trout's got the biggest contract in the world.
Yeah, and Mike Trout deserves it. That dude is amazing, man. I saw him hit I saw him hit a homer the other day. But yeah, that is guaranteed money. This Canelo Álvarez stuff. If Daniel Jacobs. Exactly. If Daniel Jacobs goes out there and starches him in a round, you can bet your sweet little ass that he's not going to get that, that $200+ million. That's just the way it works.
Jeremiah, were you trying to insinuate that I have a sweet little ass?
I don't know. You might have a sweet big ass. I haven't seen your ass, to be honest.
It's a little ass. But
is it?
It's a nice ass, though. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. But you know what I mean? It's like DAZN and Golden Boy are in tight with one another. And this is my problem with this is I don't want to insinuate too much, but this is the problem with the Ring. I do respect a lot of the guys that work there. I'm friends with them on Facebook. They do quality work. But it becomes harder and harder to separate yourself from the politics if more and more people are injecting money into your business. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the more hands you got in it, the less neutral you can be about everything. And that was a problem from the get-go. And we've seen some of that play out already. I mean, I know Douglas Fisher did a good job of taking back the reins after, his boss from Golden Boy, said, what was it, that they weren't going to strip Canelo Álvarez of his Ring middleweight championship. I believe that's what it was, or they weren't going to demote him in the rankings, something to that effect. So we've already seen some of that play out. Again, Douglas Fisher did do a good job of getting it back, but that's the sort of question marks that are going to constantly be surrounding this place. I mean, if you're allowing the number 1 and number 3 guy to get it, I don't think that's right. If you want a champion, to me, it wouldn't make any sense to say, hey, well, the Patriots can play, the third guy, and then the second guy can get the next game for it. It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to crown a world champion, make it the best of the best.
All right. Next up, we have a few fights that were announced today. Teofimo Lopez will fight Masayushi Nakatani, who I think was in 16 Candles with Long Duck Dong. What do you think here? Nakatani. Are you old enough to even remember that? I know you don't remember it, but have you ever seen it?
I have, yeah. I did grow up watching a lot of those old movies.
I basically just wanted to say Long Duck Dong because every time I do it makes me giggle and feel good about myself.
Well, it is funny, too, because if you go back and watch some of those movies, I think it was 16 Candles, actually, where the Asian guy, he was just stereotypically Asian in that movie. Am I thinking of the right movie?
Yeah, you can't do that no more because he had, the glasses on. He looked like the geek, and they made fun of him by calling him Long Duck Dong.
Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean,
Could
you
you
can get
imagine a movie today that came out and they named an Asian character Long Duck Dong?
No, you couldn't. I mean, you get outraged over just about anything and everything anymore. I mean, you write a book and it's all well intended, and then you got SJWs, accusing you of being racist or sexist or whatever it may be. These guys just need to start standing up for themselves and not giving a shit, to be honest with you. And to branch off a little bit, that sort of PC culture, it's ruining art. When you feel as if you can't, like, when there are boundaries put up, when there are walls put up, it hampers your creativity. And I think this is part of the reason why I almost never watch any shows or movies anymore.
You know what I'd like to see?
What's that?
Because I don't even know what we're talking about now, because we're talking about 16 Candles. But why can't Lopez fight like Jorge Linares or Luke Campbell, and then you can build that so his next fight could be maybe Lomachenko?
Yeah, well, apparently they're saying that this guy that he's fighting is going to be for an IBF title eliminator. So yeah, it seems as if he's probably going to get Richard Comey, because Comey, I think, already has a fight lined up, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I saw something about that. So it seems as if they're going to line him up for Comey, and then maybe, we get Vasyl Lomachenko down the line.
Yeah, well, that needs to be soon, because Lopez looks pretty good, and Lomachenko's not getting any younger, and I would like to see Lomachenko beat him. We talked about Luke Campbell, or I talked about Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell will be fighting Devin Haney, or it looks like he will be. It's in the works for July 27th on DAZN. What do you think about Campbell and Haney?
I think that's an interesting fight. I mean, Luke Campbell had a rock-solid amateur career. I think he's progressed pretty well so far, and Haney looks like one of the top prospects in boxing. I mean, I prefer Shakur Stevenson over him, to be honest with you, but Haney looks pretty damn good. So, I mean, you get two tall guys, one a southpaw, one an orthodox guy. I think that's an interesting fight because I'm still not... Again, David Haney looks pretty damn good so far, but, Campbell is far more proven. So I like it. I think it's interesting. I'd probably prefer to see Luke Campbell against, somebody else. I'm not, all this like vacant title stuff is just kind of nonsense to me anyways, but it's a decent scrap.
All right. Jermall Charlo will be back defending his WBC interim middleweight championship this summer against the highly ranked Brandon Adams. Now, it's the WBC interim middleweight title, which means he's not a champion at all, so this fight is just for something that doesn't matter. Can Adams give Charlo a go?
No, I don't think so. Adams is pretty good. I mean, he's been on a couple Boxino tournaments on ESPN, and he's a pretty good fighter. I mean, I don't want to say that he's completely. I don't want to say he has no shot at all. I've learned from everybody's mistakes in the past that we're too quick to write guys off, and you never know. I mean, all it takes is one shot. Brandon Adams is a fighter. He's pretty good aggressor. But Charlo to me is just better schooled, and he's just going to keep him on the end of that jab, and I think his size is going to play into it here. Again, it's okay, but it's nothing. I don't even think it's.
How about this? I would say this is damn near a step down from his last fight against Korobov.
It is. I would pick Korobov to beat Adams for sure.
So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
How about this one now? Because John Pascal is like the Friday the 13th movies, and they just keep, you think he's done, and then he comes right back again. And this time he's going to fight Marcus Brown, and Marcus Brown's going to beat him. And then hopefully John Pascal won't get any more big fights. But Pascal's now 33-6-1 in his last fight. He did go to distance with Bivol, but he got dominated pretty much. It was a 10-2 fight. What do you think about this? I mean, I'm tired of seeing John Pascal.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's probably on the level of the one we just talked about, Brandon Adams and Charlo.
Yeah, especially in the light heavyweight division. I mean, Marcus Brown should be fighting some dudes right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brown, after beating Badou Jack, he's ready for the best of the best now. I mean, so I don't know if they're just waiting for a title shot to open or what exactly it is, because I think Marcus Brown is, the quote-unquote mandatory for one of these guys or two of these guys. So I'm not exactly sure, but Brown's a good fighter. But, it sucks seeing Pascal beat up, because that is a guy who has paid his dues. I mean, anybody who's been following his career, he was having it out with Carl Froch. What was it, back in 2012, 2010? Something like that. I could be off.
He fought Sam Langford like in 1910, didn't he?
Yeah, up in Canada. Yeah, it was. They took it to Montreal, and it was in some ranty shack, and it was illegal back then though. So the cops intervened, I think, in the third round, right when Pascal was getting knocked out. So, then it was rendered a no contest. Unfortunate, but yeah, man, it's like I like John Pascal. I mean, he has paid his dues. He's been fighting tons of good people. He always shows up in shape. He seems like he loves it, right? He just seems like one of those guys who's dedicated to the game. But this fight's just another mismatch, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jean Pascal stop this time.
All right. Hold on. Okay. Aragon Garcia wrote an article. Should I read it?
Yes.
I don't know. So we had a little scuffle at the weigh-in for Canelo Álvarez against Daniel Jacobs today. I assume that every scuffle I see before a fight is usually staged, because, of course, we all know they're going to hug and kiss when the fight's over. When you look at this fight, has your opinion changed in the last couple days? Because the more I think about it, if Jacobs was to go after him and try to impose his will, is he too big for Canelo if he does that?
Well, that's probably why they, got the rehydration clause, right? They want to make sure that he's not too big. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at the size, I mean, Jacobs is clearly the naturally bigger guy. I mean, Canelo is no doubt a middleweight. He's been a middleweight for a long time now. I know for a little while there, he's like, I'm not a middleweight yet. And then he jumped down for one fight to beat up Liam Smith for no reason. And then, he came back up and then won immediately to 164. So it's all just been a sleight of hand for years now. But Jacobs is clearly the bigger guy. And I think that Alvarez is playing it smartly, to be honest with you, because look at what happened when Jacobs fought Golovkin. He just said, forget the IBF second day weigh-in. And if you look at, I remember seeing a report by Victor Conti, who is training him, or not training him, but Jacobs was working out in his snack facility. And Conti, I think, said that Jacobs was like 175, 176 the morning of the fight. So clearly he was a light heavyweight plus against Golovkin, and everybody pointed out anyways. I mean, and I'm sure that was part of the plan, so he could take the punches a bit better. But so I think Alvarez, that's part of the strategy, and you can't blame him so much for it. I mean, Jacobs is clearly the bigger guy, but I think it would be smart. That's what I wrote in my prediction on the TGTN Writers Prediction article. Go check that out too. But that Jacobs would be well suited to go and get it, I think. I mean, if he just went and muscled him, and John even brought it up that sometimes Alvarez will play boxer and he'll stick and he'll move and he'll try to counterpunch you. I think it would be an interesting strategy, and I think he can win that way, but he's just got to be smart about it. Less infighting and more pressing, but keeping him on the end of the punches. But it's going to be tough if it goes to the cards.
Yeah, we already know it's going to be tough if it goes to the cards. But yeah. I got nothing else, Jeremiah. You got anything?
No, I'm good. All I saw was that Daniel Jacobs said that motherfucker's going to get it. So
watch your language.
I know. I'm just repeating. I'm sorry, people. If your kids are listening.
You said MFer live on the worldwide internet. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm sorry. If you have kids, I apologize deeply. But
yeah, because kids are a pain in the ass. He's not even talking about he apologized because he said MF. He's apologizing because you got kids and they're a pain in the ass. But go ahead.
I feel bad for you. I got a couple of my own.
Yeah, I got 3 of them little mother. And they're a pain in the ass. They're also like they just drain you of all your money.
Oh yeah, your hopes and your dreams all out the window.
Will to live. Especially it was cool when they're little. Because now I look at them, I think, man, they used to be real little, and they'd do whatever I wanted, and they'd look at me like I was awesome. And now I got my 16 and 18-year-old telling me they can whip my ass. But you know what? When I offer to see if they can or not, they usually laugh and say, you're not worth it, you can't handle me, which means they're still afraid of me.
Yep, still got that edge. That's why I yelled down the hole before my sons came out. I was like, don't come here, start no shit. So
you yelled down the hole.
Yep.
That's a great way to talk about your wife, Jeremiah.
She doesn't listen to this. She didn't care.
It's not that she doesn't listen and she doesn't care. It's just that she doesn't listen. So she can't care about something she doesn't know about.
Exactly.
Tomorrow night, we're going to do a live show after the throwdown in Motown. I just wanted to say that because I know it's not Motown, but...
Just sounded cool, man.
You want to do a live show after the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm up for it. If we want to get somebody else, to tag along, I'm down.
Yeah. As long as it ain't like 2 o'clock in the morning when it ends, I'm up for it. So keep an eye out for us. We'll tweet about it tomorrow night. You can follow us at The Grueling Truth. You can follow Jeremiah at TGTN Boxing. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, me and Bobby Sheridan will be on with the Sheridan Report. If you want to bet the Kentucky Derby, we had a special Kentucky Derby preview tonight with myself, Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report, Phil Rankin from the Handicapper's Guide, the Handicapping Guide. I always screw that up. And we had Vince DeGregory, who is a legend. He's 86 years old. He has been the agent for 8 different Hall of Fame jockeys. It was a great show tonight. Check that out. And you can go to thegruelingtruth.com and hear that show. You can also see Phil Rankin, who Jeremiah, as soon as he figures out how to do it, will put up every pick that he has for Churchill Downs tomorrow, which is special. It's just here where you can find that. It usually will cost you a little bit of money to get that, but he's giving it to us for free. So make sure you check that out for the Kentucky Derby tomorrow if you have any interest in that. We will be back tomorrow night with a little Canelo Álvarez, Daniel Jacobs talk. Hopefully it's not. I'm pissed off because I know who won and I didn't see it that way. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get John Einreinhofer on here. Send him a message, see if he's running a marathon or a triathlon or an ultra marathon triathlon Sunday. And if he's not, maybe he'll be on. We want to thank John Scully again for being on. And other than that, Inside Boxing Daily will return Monday night. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up. You can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Jeremiah Pricer, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.